Welcome to Beyond Words by Pop Family. I'm Heidi, and today I'm chatting with Pop Senior Speech Pathologist and Clinical Lead, Monique. Mon is passionate about advocating for clients and helping families all over Australia to navigate complex systems. Based in Adelaide, Mon graduated with a Bachelor of Speech Pathology in 2016 and began her clinical career by working in the mental health, disability and public health sectors before joining the POP team to provide telehealth speech pathology all over Australia. Monique's clinical interests include language and literacy development, neuroaffirming practices, supporting individuals with selective mutism, and trauma-informed approaches to therapy. Monique provides supervision and training widely across the team here at POP, and her passion for advocating for the best outcomes for her clients is her single greatest attribute. Mon is really knowledgeable and explains things simply and beautifully for parents. I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say about accessing Medicare rebates today. Welcome to Beyond Words, Monique.
Thank you, Heidi. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to see you, just on a different platform to Zoom. So let's talk about Medicare. What funding does Medicare give us for speech therapy, and what's it called? What's the scheme called?
So, Medicare offers funding through what's now called the GP Chronic Condition Management Plan, or GPCCMP, which is a mouthful in itself. So, under this plan, you can access a rebate for up to 5 allied health sessions per year, and that can include speech pathology. And the rebate is currently $61 a session, which doesn't cover the full cost, but does reduce the out-of-pocket fee that is required when accessing speech pathology appointments.
And that's a really important fact too. We're not talking about prices of speech pathology today, but we do need to follow up with that in a different episode because that's something people really want to know about. Roughly, though, how much does that get you off a standard session, like a standard 1 hour session?
Probably just over a quarter. It'll probably cover about a quarter, maybe slightly more of a 1 hour session.
Okay, that's really good to know. So it's not covering the full fee.
It does not cover the full fee, no, but it does help alleviate some of the out-of-pocket costs.
Absolutely. It sort of works a little bit similarly to the way that private health works in that way. It doesn't quite often cover the full fee, but it alleviates that. Okay,
Yeah,
great to know. So they used to be called GPMPs, or CDMPs. They've changed a few times. So we've got this new terminology. Good to know. I would love to know from you what the difference is between Medicare funding and NDIS funding. If I'm a parent, I'm new to navigating this system, I think why are there all these different schemes and what's the difference? These are probably two of the biggest players that the government provides rebates for. What's the difference between Medicare and NDIS funding?
So Medicare and NDIS are actually two separate systems. Medicare is very limited in terms of the fact that it essentially covers a small rebate for a handful of sessions each year, whereas the NDIS, which is the National Disability Insurance Scheme, on the other hand, can fund much more intensive ongoing therapy if your child or you as an adult meets their criteria. So Medicare is more like a top-up or a way to kind of get started, or if you're not eligible for NDIS, while NDIS is for longer-term, lifelong permanent support.
Yes. So that's a really, really lovely, simple way of saying it. If I'm on the NDIS scheme, can I access Medicare funding?
Yes, you can access both, but you're not able to claim them at the same time for the same appointment service.
No double dipping.
No double dipping, exactly, because then that would be a duplication of funding.
Medicare is actually for everyone. There's still a criteria, but the criteria is at a lower bar, essentially, than the NDIS. NDIS, you need to have a lot more requirements to fit the criteria for NDIS, but Medicare essentially has a lower bar. Maybe if I'm to give an example, I have a child. She is 3.5, and I'm hypothetically worried about her speech sounds and I think, oh,
Mhm.
I just don't think that they're right. I can't understand her all the time. She certainly doesn't have a severe speech issue. So she may not, I'm not thinking about the NDIS right now, but maybe I'd go to my GP and maybe I'd talk about accessing some Medicare funding to get her checked out.
So essentially, it's called a chronic disease management plan because you need to have had at least 6 months of something affecting you to be able to access it for it to be chronic.
Okay, so it
So
needs to be chronic.
it needs to be chronic. It doesn't necessarily need to be lifelong, which can be the differentiating factor between, accessing NDIS, especially over the age of 7 when you need an ongoing disability. Whereas for children under the age of 7 within NDIS, they can access early intervention support. But for the Medicare funding, it is for needing at least 6 months of it affecting you.
Yes, and do you know what? Lots of kids actually have, for example, like you had a stutter for 6 months. We actually, that's one of the criteria. If you've had it for 6 months, then you should be
Yes.
coming in.
Essentially, yeah. Same with speech. Yep.
That's the sign for a stuttering, for example. If you've been doing that, then that's a sign that it is chronic, perhaps, and you need to come and see a speechy for that. Okay, wonderful. So we've talked about a few things there about Medicare and NDIS, and we're not jumping into NDIS today. So I want to know, walking myself through this, I'm a parent. I also want to know, like, what about me? What if I think I have a chronic condition?
So you as an adult are also eligible to be able to apply for the Medicare chronic condition management plan.
Okay,
So it's
excellent.
not just exclusively for children, it can be for adults too.
It can be, and it's not exclusively for speech pathology either.
Correct. And you can access all allied health under this scheme.
Yeah, and who are they?
Occupational therapy, psychology, podiatry, physiotherapy, a dietitian, social work. I think I'm missing a couple.
We surely are, but we didn't come in to talk about them. We're talking about speech therapy, but because that's what we know about. But you can, for example, I talk professionally for a living. I'm not worried about my speech at the moment. I'm not worried about my language or the other, or swallowing or eating or the other things that speech therapists can do. But as an adult, I might be listening to this and thinking, actually, I've got a mobility issue, or I've got something
Mhm.
where I could actually go to my GP. So this is actually not just for mums and kids. It's for adults, and maybe you could maybe you could prompt your parents or someone that you know who needs support, and to let them know that they can actually access this funding too.
Correct. So it's still a total of 5 sessions per calendar year. So if you do go with multiple therapists or allied health, you can divvy it up how you wish. So that might be, for example, 2 sessions spent on a speech pathologist, 3 spent on an occupational therapist, or 4 spent on a speech pathologist and 1 spent on a psychologist. So you can kind of choose how you wish to use it.
Yeah, which is really nice because that allows for you to individualize your chronic disease management plan.
Right. You get a bit more choice and autonomy.
Yeah. We love that. Okay, so I've decided I'm now back to being my hypothetical parent with my child. I've decided, like, maybe I need to see a speech pathologist. Like, maybe this issue has been going on for 6 months. Do I need a referral? Like, do I need a referral to see a speech therapist in the first place?
No, so you actually don't need a referral to see a speech pathologist. You can call us directly or call a provider directly and book in. But if you do want to claim the Medicare rebate, that's when you need a referral form from your GP under the GP chronic condition management plan. And this is the same whether you're an adult or arranging support for your child.
Yeah, beautiful. So the reason that we get a referral, you can actually call up. And like, because if you think that they've got a waiting list, whoever your local provider is, you can actually call up and book in, and you don't actually need to have the chronic condition management plan until the day of your session. So you could call up and get booked in, and you could actually get that chronic condition management plan. As long as you've got it before your session, you can still claim.
Correct. And
Yeah.
even if you decide to pay out of pocket for your first session, but then it kicks in your next subsequent session, that's fine too. There's flexibility within that around how
Yeah.
you use it.
Especially when you're going with a private provider, of course. Okay, so I need to go to the GP. I want to get my money back. I want to get my 61, what is it?
6180.
6180. I want to get my 6180 back. That's a lot of money. I need to prepare. Like, what am I taking to am I going to go to the GP and they give me all the answers?
No, not necessarily. I would say preparation definitely makes the whole process easier. So, just a couple of ideas of things to bring would be a short summary of your child's needs or any diagnoses, if they meet any diagnoses, any recent reports from schools or previous therapy reports, if you have that, and a list of current supports your child is receiving. And definitely, you need some information from previous specialists or doctor's appointments as well, because all of that will help. But definitely, we've created a resource here where this can include key questions to ask and what to bring for your GP session to be able to make this process a bit more streamlined.
One of the hardest things about being a parent and navigating a health issue for your child, like my daughter has eczema. You wouldn't think that a rash could cause so much stress and anxiety in your life. And I'm a health professional and I own a health company and I navigate the health system as my core business. And I still find it exhausting and overwhelming to have to advocate for my child in an industry that I'm very comfortable in. So I just can't imagine how difficult it is for parents who have no experience, like working in hospitals with doctors, within the system, we call it. So essentially, something like this could just be really amazing. If we're going to get ready for the GP, this resource can really take us through it. So it sort of summarizes what you just said, doesn't it? What to bring to your GP appointment. Then we've got, let's talk about this. How can POP help?
So, some of the things that we can help support you with through our discovery call is where you can sit down with a speech pathologist and really go through all of your concerns and some signs that we might look out for when we're thinking about our child and what they may need. It could be your child's speech is hard for you or others to understand. It could be that they're late to start talking or they have a very small vocabulary compared to their peers. They might struggle to follow instructions or answer questions and join in conversations. They may be school age and they're struggling with reading, writing, and spelling. And social communication could also be something that they notice when interacting with other children of the same age. For example, their ability to make friends and take turns and understand jokes. So if you're noticing any of these things, it's worth checking in with a speech pathologist early and really going through and using that time to discuss your concerns and work out, is speech therapy the pathway that I need to go down? And if it is, what information can I bring to the GP to help support that? And one of those things can be our summary from our discovery calls, which will have some of that information outlaid that has been corroborated by the speech pathologist as well.
That's right. We have a group of experienced speech pathologists who answer the phones on our discovery calls. You can talk to them for 15 minutes and basically get a pretty clear idea of whether your child is meeting milestones or whether they might be behind or not. And you can take that as evidence to your GP to apply for a um, for Medicare funding. There is also another resource here. We've just linked in the Speech Pathology Australia milestones, which so you can have a look at whether your child is hitting those developmental milestones. They're mainly for speech and language. I'm not sure if there are feeding milestones on that one. I'm not sure.
I don't believe so. I believe those are communication milestones up until the age of about 5 to 6.
Yes. Yeah.
But there are different, by Googling or different resources online, as well as checking in with the teacher, especially if they're school age and they're above the age of 6 and you're trying to work out, I guess, what's typical of that age group. Touching base with teachers, having a chat with our speech pathologists, talking with your friends, that can really help as well.
So we've got our evidence and we're going to the GP. What's here on our GP checklist? So we can print this off. Well, I'm a mum, I'm going to the GP, I can print this off and I can actually take it with me, because my number one tip to mums, honestly, when I'm going to the doctor, and I've had so many appointments lately, we've got 2 children, 2 children and a husband, and you manage all of the appointments, there is a lot. And like, I write a list. So this is, and I ask every single question. And then at the end of the appointment, I go, just wait a minute. And I make sure I've answered every single question. So this is essentially the resource that our parents can take with them to the GP.
Yes. And they can, yeah, and they can use it to go through it with the GP directly. So that way they ensure that all their questions are being answered, the GP has the evidence that they need, and all the information is set up on the referral.
Beautiful. So that actually, because sometimes the GP has all the best intentions, but if they miss just one piece of information on that referral, then you can't get the rebate.
Correct. It can delay it, or it can make the kind of back and forth admin process a bit more time consuming for then your child to be able to access that support and jump and use that rebate for that appointment.
So in summary, if you have this checklist, it's going to really help you prepare for your GP appointment where you're
Mhm.
requesting Medicare funding.
Mhm.
It's going to give you a really good idea of whether you're eligible or not, because it allows you to actually investigate your eligibility for speech pathology. Obviously, we're not putting out eligibility for other allied health services on there. That's
Yes.
not what we do. We only do speech therapy. And if you're still a little bit unsure about your eligibility, you can call us for a discovery call and probably find out.
Yes. Correct.
And if you don't have a certain answer, of course, from us, we're not doctors, so we don't give the sign off. We don't give certainty, but we can write down our opinion and you can take that with you along with this checklist as evidence to take to the GP. And also, if you're a GP, that is a fantastic thing for a patient to turn up with, here's the documentation. What do you think of it, essentially?
Correct.
So, okay, I decide my child needs speech therapy. I want to apply for the Medicare rebate. How do I do it? I've got my papers. I'm going to walk into the office. What goes on from there?
So, really, step one is booking an appointment with your GP. Bring along your concerns and our checklist and go through it with them. If your GP agrees that your child has ongoing needs and they meet eligibility for the chronic condition management plan and include a referral to a speech pathologist, you can then book in with us, bring the referral letter, and then after each session, you can claim the Medicare rebate either on the spot or through Medicare directly.
Okay. On the spot, as in straight after that session?
Yeah, on the spot, as in they pay for the session,
Mhm.
then we put through the invoice through to Medicare, and then Medicare will reimburse you and pop it back into
Yeah,
your
and they put it
account.
through back to our, like, straight to your card that you've got in the Medicare app or whatever, don't they?
Correct. Yes, that's correct. And I'm pretty sure it usually takes like a business day. It's pretty a quick turnaround for the
I love it
reimbursement to be received.
because I have my Medicare set up on my old personal card that's just mine. So every time I have an appointment, it's kind of like I'm making money because it's not in my joint family
Your
account.
joint.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I've got $60, or I have a few appointments, I've got $100 in there, you know. Anyway, it's a real win to get that money back, and it makes a huge difference sometimes. Okay. So
Definitely.
in your experience, in your clinical experience, I'm not currently clinical. I'm in my early little baby motherhood era. So I haven't used this new Medicare scheme since the changes happened in July. So in your clinical experience, far say you need speech therapy, your GP gives you the 5 sessions, and the $61 for each one. How far does that go if you want to get results from speech therapy?
At POP, the average child would need more than 5 sessions to make meaningful progress. I think for many children, therapy tends to run weekly or fortnightly over months and even years for some. Medicare will cover 5 sessions per year, but research does show that it takes often 20 to 30-minute sessions or more for children to reach their goals over at least a 6-month period, but that really depends on the type and severity of their needs. So, Medicare is a really helpful start, but most families may need to use private health insurance, NDIS, or private payment to continue therapy over that longer period.
Yeah. Our average length of a client at POP is around 24 sessions, around 6 months
Yeah, around 6 months.
of weekly therapy as well.
Correct.
And not everyone who leaves our service has actually achieved all their goals either. You know, people still got to leave because they've run out of money, or because they've moved, or their situation has changed, or their schedule has changed. All of those sorts of things cause people to cease therapy as well. It's not because you've just achieved everything. So especially if you do have a chronic condition, if you actually have a chronic condition, 6 months might, I would be really impressed if you've achieved all your goals in 6 months.
Yeah, and that's, and that's when we likely see, we look at exploring maybe does NDIS or another system potentially cover that to be able to get that longer term support. The
Yeah.
Medicare system is a great way for you to get started and really
Yeah.
get in to see a speech pathologist and get that assessment and therapy started.
It's a great access point for that, and to give that financial, to alleviate that financial burden, because that's actually just one of the biggest gaps. And I think that that's why I think I want to ask about there's a different type of funding as well called Helping Children with Autism. How does that fit into this scheme? Is that Medicare funding?
It is under Medicare, but if a child is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder by a specialist, such as a pediatrician or a psychologist, they may be eligible for up to 4 sessions for assessment and then 20 sessions for therapy. And that is at a higher rebate of $87.25 per session. But these are separate from the chronic condition management plan that we've been talking about
So that
because
child
there
could,
is a stricter criteria for their diagnosis.
yeah, yeah. And essentially that's an additional, so you could, hypothetically, I've got my child, I've had concerns, I've gone to the GP, I've had an initial assessment through a speech pathologist, and they've said, oh, I think we need to go to a pediatrician, and then I could maybe use the Helping Children with Autism do you only get Helping Children with Autism if you've got an autism diagnosis already?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
You have to have had the diagnosis first to be able to be eligible for that.
Yeah. And we're not delving into rebates for specialists or any lists like that today. So we're just talking about speech pathology. So, okay, interesting. Thank you very much. So the scheme has changed since July. What are we hearing from parents on the ground about this new process? Is it easy to get? Like, what's the activity that we're seeing, and what are parents saying?
Yeah, I think families, from what I've been hearing, families are telling us the new system is a bit clearer than before, but it can still be very confusing at times. I think the main challenge is making sure that GPs are on the same page about eligibility. And some parents may find the paperwork really straightforward, while others experience delays if their GP isn't familiar with the process.
Which is another reason why taking our resource with you, our GP checklist, could be really effective, because you have no way of knowing if your GP has actually written one of these since the changes came out in July 25.
Correct.
So it's also another reason why, when choosing a GP, choosing one that is likely specific to your needs. So if you're an adult with mobility difficulties, like just calling up and making sure that your GP knows about that. GPs are generalists, of course, but they do have special interest areas. So for me, hypothetical child who's 3, I would be looking for a GP who had a specific interest in child development. And then they're likely to maybe know about this scheme, and they've probably written them for other children as well. So that's just an important point, I think.
Yeah, because we are still seeing some inconsistencies across like how GPs are finding the process. I mean, some GPs are excellent and they get the paperwork right away, whereas others are less familiar with the scheme or have like a different interpretation of what counts as a chronic condition. So this is really why we recommend families bring our resource, bring our checklist. It will make it easier for the GP to see why a referral is needed and why we're making this request.
It's an advocacy tool. It's what it takes to
Exactly.
advocate for yourself or your child in the GP's office. So let's flip. Have we found out how GPs are finding this process? Like, is there back end? Because we want this to be easy for GPs. If parents know more about what the process is like for the GP, they're likely to know what the motivation might be or how to make it easier. And I guess that's why we've got this checklist. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for the GP. Do we know how they're finding the new system?
I think we're still seeing a lot of inconsistencies because it really depends on the level of training and exposure the GP has had. And I know that Medicare are looking to provide more wider scale training so we can kind of get on to this universal changes in this system. But I think that's still part of a bigger rollout plan.
Yes.
So, because I am, what's the word for me in this situation? I like to control situations. I would probably call my GP in advance. I would call the office and I would say, "Hi, I'm going to come in and I'd like to talk about um, if my child's eligible for this scheme. I just want to let the GP know that that's what I'll be asking about." Admin will send that message through to your GP. They'll have time to, especially if you send it the week before your appointment, they'll have time to read up on the scheme before you go in. So maybe that's a good touch too, especially if you've never met your GP before or the GP that you're going in to meet. If you have a great relationship with that GP and you already know, or they feel you know that they're going to read up on it on the spot in front of you. Like my GP literally searches things in front of me. So when she's looking into something to interpret the information, she's doing it in the room with me. And I feel like I feel really great in that environment. So if you've got that relationship, then just go straight in there. But if you don't know them, you could always call in advance and let them know what's coming as well.
And then that way you can also work out if that GP might need like a double appointment book to be able to spend a bit more time to go through your concerns and your questions in a bit more detail. So there's flexibility within that.
Admin's likely to say, "Oh, would you need a long appointment then?"
Correct.
And that's the other thing, because obviously there are bulk billing GPs that you can go to. And if finances are something that you are tight on, then you may not know, if you're going to a bulk billing GP, you may not know them when you're going into this. So yeah, giving them the heads up is always a good idea to allow them to be as prepared as possible. Okay, I've been to the GP. I didn't know them.
Mhm.
Bulk billing GP. My GP is actually super expensive.
Mhm.
You have to pay out of pocket. And I just really wanted to spend, because it's a long appointment. It was going to cost me $120 to go to this one. So I actually went to a bulk billing one.
Mhm.
They said no.
Yes.
But I'm still sure. I've got our resource. I'm just so sure that my child or that myself fits this criteria. What should I do now?
Think something we always remind our families is that GPs are just one part of the process. And if a GP says no, you are absolutely allowed to seek a second opinion. Because, as we said before, some GPs are more familiar with developmental needs than others. Some may have more experience with doing these plans. So, if you strongly believe that your child needs support, keep advocating. And we can provide a letter to summarize your concerns to take back to the GP, or you can use the notes that we provide for our discovery call, or you can use past reports that you may have or teacher reports. All of those things are really going to help you to provide evidence, especially if you then go seek a second opinion.
That's it. The word of one person does not, the path doesn't end there.
Exactly. Then it's like one person's decision is not going to gatekeep that
No.
from you.
And
You are definitely allowed to
if you
seek
get
additional.
2 or 3 no's, then maybe you don't meet criteria. But
Exactly.
if you get 1 no, but you're still pretty certain that you meet criteria, we'll definitely give it another shot, and maybe ask around and ask your friends who their GPs have been and if they have experience in the chronic condition that you're going to talk about, essentially.
Yes.
All right. We talked about helping children with autism funding briefly. Are there any other types of Medicare funding that parents can access?
There is the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Service plans, which this is providing up to 10 allied health sessions per year at the same rebate of 61.80 each.
Okay, so that's double the sessions.
Correct, yes.
And 10 sessions, I mean, I think about the difference between 5 sessions and 10 sessions. Like, 10 sessions is still not adequate for achieving long-term outcomes in most areas of speech pathology. But what you can do with 10 rebated sessions as opposed to 5 is just fast.
Yes.
You know,
And you
I
can
think it's
kind of,
double.
yeah, it's double. You can kind of stagger it over, fortnightly. So then that way it covers you for like 20 weeks, or doing like kind of over 2 terms, doing like fortnightly sessions, or like a block of 5 weeks, have a bit of a break, and then another block of 5 weeks. So it can kind of be more flexible. You have a bit more autonomy with it.
Yeah, and so that is for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children or adults as
Yes.
well? Yep, fantastic. That's really great. So, I hope that everybody knows about that if they meet that criteria. All right. So, in summary, when it comes to navigating the Medicare system, what are just the key pointers or the key points that you want parents to remember?
Well, I think the first one is that you don't need a referral to see a speech pathologist, but you do need one if you want to claim the Medicare Chronic Condition Management Plan rebate. The Chronic Condition Management Plan rebate gives up to 5 rebated sessions per year. Always book in with your GP first and bring reports, teacher feedback, and our resource to explain and express your concerns to your GP. And remember that if your GP says no and you still have concerns, you can get a second opinion. So Medicare is a great starting point to be able to alleviate some of that cost to get kickstarted with your therapy journey.
Yeah. When I think about it, we really are very lucky in Australia to have schemes like this where parents can access a rebate. There's heaps of countries where you don't get anything.
Exactly right.
Thank you, Monique.
Thank you so much, Heidi.
I hope
Thank
that
you for
this
having
helps
me.
parents to actually just navigate the system a little bit easier and to let them know what they can and can't do. Give them permission to advocate for their child.
Yeah, because they are their best child advocate. And so we really want to empower parents to be able to book that appointment and access these supports.
Yeah. And if you've got any questions and you really think your child needs speech therapy, you can call up and have a discovery call with one of our experienced speech pathologists and just ask those additional questions and make sure you take that summary with you to the GP.
I hope you found this episode practical and are walking away with some simple actions or knowledge to help support your family. We'd love to hear what other funding topics you'd like us to cover. You can reach me by leaving a comment on your podcast app or sending us a DM on our Instagram at Beyond Words by popfamily. Don't forget to head over to the show notes to get your free copy of How to Get Medicare Funding, which includes the eligibility information and our GP checklist to take with you to your appointment. Plus, you can follow us for even more episodes. Before we wrap up, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of land, seas and waters throughout Australia and pay respect to elders past, present and future. Please also remember that if you or your child are facing challenges in the areas we discussed today, please seek an individualised speech pathology assessment or chat to your GP. Take care and we'll see you next time.